Welcome, everyone, to the January 16th, 2024 council meeting, first meeting of 2024. I'll remind everybody that the meeting is live streamed, recorded, and available on the internet by visiting the Town of Parry Sound's website at www.ca, parrysound.ca. Prior to the open session, council met for a closed session was moved by Councilor McCann, second by Councilor Borneman, pursuant to section 239(2) and 3 of the Municipal Act SO 2001 C25 as amended. Council of the Corporation of Town of Parry Sound moved to a special meeting closed to the public in order to address matters pertaining to D, labor relations or employee negotiations, QP Local 17 grievance, E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, contractor work on town property, defense of a claim. F, advice that's subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, contractor work on town property, defense of a claim. I, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization, Belvedere Heights Life Lease, and K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. And that meeting was held and that motion carried. As an update, today at 11:45 a.m. on January the 16th, 2024, a significant weather event declaration was made for the town of Parry Sound. The purpose of declaring this event is to inform the public normal level of service standards may not be met. Resources will be deployed as necessary and as possible. The town of Parry Sound will declare the event over once staff are able to cope with the volume of snow and have had opportunity to return to a normal level of service. As per Regulation 239.02 of the Municipal Act 2001, an Ontario municipality may declare a significant weather event when a weather hazard is approaching or occurring and has the potential to pose a significant danger to users of the highways in which they have the authority over. This declaration suspends the standard timelines required for municipalities to meet their winter maintenance objectives until the municipality declares the significant weather event has ended. Residents are advised to use caution in traveling as they may experience poor road and sidewalk conditions. Please stay safe, a safe distance away from maintenance vehicles, and allow them to do their work. All available resources continue to be deployed to address the situation. And notices were provided the following ways as per winter control level or service policy. Town's website, town's Twitter, which is now X account, press release to the local radio station, and notification to the local OPP. Right. Now I'd like to acknowledge that we're on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people under the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850 and the waterways traveled by the Métis of this region. May I have a mover and seconder for the agenda? Councilor Borneman and Councilor McCann. Is there any prioritization of the agenda? No. All in favor then? That's carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest of the general nature thereof? Councilor McCann, yeah. You have to make that decision yourself. Then you're declaring conflict. That one? Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. May I have a mover and seconder for the minutes then, please? Councilor Keith and Councilor Boleski, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held December 19th, 2023 be approved as circulated. Are there any comments or questions with regard to the minutes of that meeting? All in favor then? That's carried. Thank you. Questions of staff? Any questions of staff? Councilor Pulaski? Oh, your microphone.
I'm just wondering, if we can get maybe an update over the weekend of the issue at the arena of accessibility. It was pretty widely known around the community. I just thought to give an opportunity to address it.
Your worship, I may initially defer to Miss McNamara, who I believe is online.
Good evening, all. Through your worship, thank you, Councillor Blasky, for the question. Yes, there was a resident, or there was a little bit of upset this weekend with regard to what was thought to be an accessible viewing area and access that was requested of staff. Since this occurrence, staff are requesting that the Accessibility Advisory Committee come into the community center and work with staff to review our current viewing area, our accessible viewing area, which is downstairs on the main floor in the lobby of the community center. We're asking that the Accessibility Committee come in and work with staff to do a review of our facility access and egress, and what the barrier-free reality is for our facility, and work with us to see if there are improvements that can be made with regard to customer service.
Kearns.
Thank you, through your worship. I'd like to add further to Ms. McNamara's comments that I think staff would like to commit to working with this individual in particular to start with, because it was a somewhat of a unique circumstance that we hadn't experienced before. So I think we would like to, as staff, commit to working with this individual to see if we can find an interim solution, perhaps, to the viewing issue that presented itself this weekend. So I would like to make that commitment to council and to the individuals involved.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Councilor McCann.
Thank you. Yeah, so just a question, and I guess Mr. Kearns may be able to answer this one. Or April, was there the individual told that they couldn't have access to the elevator, or was it explained that that area was not a viewing area? Was that clear to them? I'm wondering what message they took home that night.
Through your worship, unfortunately, I'm not clear on the exact circumstances, so I would like to further that conversation with the folks involved through that commitment that we made to work through this issue. I don't want to surmise because I don't have firsthand knowledge, so we'd certainly like to work through the communication that was received and continue to improve, but directly with these folks.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Councilor Borneman?
Mr. Cairns, just to be clear, we're going to exercise a little bit of flexibility and compassion, for lack of a better word, in dealing with these individuals. Would that same standard hold true if another disabled person were to approach staff down there? Like, I don't want us to be, I want us to treat everybody fairly. I don't want us to be setting sort of a variety of standards. I think what you're suggesting makes a good deal of sense, but I think it has to be fairly broadly applied, maybe depending on how many people show up who are in similar circumstances.
So through your worship, so that would be our ultimate goal in improving our service standard for sure. I don't want to get mired down in the overall process. I'd like to help these individuals through the rest of this hockey viewing season immediately. And if if another circumstance that we have not previously dealt with comes up, I'm certainly going to encourage staff to contact myself, Ms. McNamara, perhaps both of us, and we'll work through the issues as they come up.
Thank you.
Any further questions of staff? No? Okay, very good. Correspondence, Ms. Johnson.
Truck's all plowed up.
Your worship, we have just one item of correspondence from the Ontario Good Roads Association. It is a call for nominations to the 2024-2025 Board of Directors of Ontario Good Roads. And there are vacancies in the northern zone, for example. There are vacancies in others as well. But in the northern zone, which includes Parry Sound, any member of council or a permanent full-time staff member from a Good Roads member municipality, of which the town of Parry Sound is one, is eligible in being considered as candidate, and there's a nomination, there's an application form for that.
Okay.
And that's the correspondence.
Thank you. All right, we have deputations next. We have 3 deputations tonight, and,
This is me. This is me.
oh, okay, one has been pulled. Okay. One's been pulled due to the weather. All right, so our first deputation is Don Carmichael, Belvedere Heights Life Lease. Welcome, Don.
Well, thank you, Your Worship, Council. And also with me is Pam Wing, who is the chair of the Belvedere Board. Rebecca, did you want me to share the slide, or
Yeah.
how would that,
She
would that work?
Oh, he's sharing it. Okay, all right, very good. Then you go ahead and share the slides.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Yeah, it's working? Okay, great.
Good job.
Now we'll see. So so thanks very much. There's 2 components to the presentation, because I know many of our councils have new members and they're not quite familiar with the Belvedere Heights. And so this presentation this evening talks a little bit about an overview of the Board of Management, and then talks as well about Life Lease, because we have the 2 components on the 21 Belvedere property. So currently, Belvedere Heights is a 101-bed long-term care facility that was opened in 2003. And attached to that is a 24 Life Lease unit. And they're both on the east side of Belvedere, on that triangular piece of property that's just a bit over 2 acres. So the 24 Life Lease unit is actually a renovation of the old nursing home that was there prior to opening up the 2003 unit. In the province, there are about 440 some long-term care facilities. Over 100 of them, a little over 100 of them, are municipal homes, because large municipalities were required to have a municipal home. Those of us who live in small rural areas can voluntarily come together to create a district municipal home. And there are 6 of us in Northern Ontario that are currently district municipal homes, voluntarily created. In our case, it's all of West Parry Sound, as well as McMurray Monteith in East Parry Sound. So a total of 8 owners to creating a long-term care facility. When we approach government and to do this, it is an order in council that occurs. So the Board of Management is actually a provincial non-for-profit corporation, as I mentioned, structured through the order of council. It's a fractional ownership model, which is based on the relative impact assessments across the 8 municipalities. The regulations also cast in stone the board structure, which is currently 5 councillors and 2 provincial reps, and I'm one of those provincial reps. And the councillors, of course, some have, in your case, you have 2 reps, Seguin has 1, and then Pam represents 3 municipalities, and Debbie Zulak represents 3 municipalities, is the way it's structured. Also, as I'm sure you're quite aware, the Long-Term Care Act gives the Board of Management essentially the power to manage independently the long-term care facility and can levy you for both operating and capitals for the on an annual basis. Since we can voluntarily come together, we can also voluntarily get out of the business. And so what we did, all of us, all 8 municipalities did this in the summer of 2021. You passed the bylaw to asking the ministry to take back the right to manage these beds, because we don't own a license. We only manage the beds on the behalf of the ministry, because we wanted to take an advantage of the then new opportunity to create a campus of care and consolidate long-term care on the West Parry Sound Health Center campus. So this new concept would be joined with Lakeland long-term care. So we did that, and the Board of Management also had to pass a resolution to the same. So we've had verbal acknowledgement from the ministry of our intent, but there has not been any formal correspondence, a recognition of any answer about what might transpire with regard to that. And that, of course, we're now over 2 years since that has happened. The other thing I haven't got on the slide that I forgot to include was that during that time, we have been working very closely with Lakeland and West Parry Sound Health Center, and we actually have a management services agreement with West Parry Sound that provides the management. And like Kami Johnson, our administrator at Belvedere Heights, is actually from a comment from Lakeland Long-Term Care as our full-time administrator, so that we have been joined at the hip.
Frozen, yeah.
The levy slide, the calculation. Whoop.
No,
Am I-
I'm wondering, because we're losing you, I'm wondering if you turn off your camera, but still share your screen. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah, it died, right?
Yeah,
Is the screen gone?
screen's gone.
Okay. And can you see it now?
Yes,
Yeah. So as you can see, your share of the levy is the 8.7%, and it ranges from 2.3% for Merrick Monteith up to 36% for Seagoing. So life lease, let's see if I can turn my camera off here. It doesn't want to let me do that. All right, see if we get lucky or not. So so life lease is a right to occupy a unit. It's not ownership like a condo. So there's no part ownership of lands or buildings. There is a monthly maintenance fee, just like a condo. And the other issue, there are no legislation that governs life lease as there is for other types of accommodations in the province. There have been a private members bill that didn't get through second reading, and they're trying again. It's in second reading. A new one is in second reading at the moment, as of a couple months ago. So under the terms of Belvedere Heights, sorry, the life lease at Belvedere, the residents can remain for 50 years, provided they can live independently and are in good standing. The provincial concept of life lease really was an attainable housing strategy, not a real estate investment, as we talked about. It's a rental. And so that the average prices for life lease are more in the $240 to $250 per square foot range, not like a condo that could be easily $400 a square foot or more. And to put it in context here, the relative impact value assessment is about $4.7 million, or a little over $213 per square foot. The financing models in the province for life lease have the one that we use largely is market value, which means that when someone wants to sell the property, it's sold whatever the market will bear for a condo. Some leaf lease units have a price index model, which means there's an annual increase to their investment. Others have essentially a declining balance or zero balance, which is like a reverse mortgage, so that the maintenance fees don't cover the costs, and whatever costs are not covered by that come out of the deposit, and then of course their original investment then declines over time. So those are the models that are available. So the way it stands today at Life Lease, they can stay in their unit as per the agreement. When they need to sell the unit, the first call is for people on the wait list. So there is a prescribed process within the life lease agreement that includes that, and that people on the wait list and then others that perhaps may be interested have an opportunity to try to purchase a unit. If there is no one that is interested, it then goes on the open market, which could very well end up being an MLS listing. Once that happens, if it's not sold within 60 days on the open market, we can ask the tenant to reduce the price. Initially, when this happens, we mutually agree on a resale price. But if the market won't bear that price, we can then ask them to reduce the price. If they've already left, they're still accountable for the monthly maintenance fees. And so that if it drags on for many months, they are still required to pay the maintenance fees, whether they live there or not. What's happened over the past 4 or 5 years is life lease is no longer as popular as it used to be. There's still some market, but we have way more requests for rent than we do for purchases. So, and it's just sort of, I guess, the modern approach. And at the moment, we have three people on the wait list for rent, and potentially one on the wait list to purchase. So we do meet on a regular basis with the tenants, all of them who want to attend the meeting, to discuss the budgets, capital reserves, other ongoing issues. Paul just had a meeting with them, for example. So we keep in touch with them in terms of their ongoing issues, and obviously we talk about this particular item as well. So over the past 2 years, we have actually purchased 5 units, and we've at a mutually agreed price. We've had no issues with buying these units back, and we bought those out of reserves. And so, and of course, the reason we were here tonight, and we had obviously a brief conversation about this, as you mentioned, Your Worship, earlier in closed session, about the TD Bank proposal, which would then provide the life use holders with the option to sell back to the corporation. Don't have to. They always have the right to sell on the open market. But if circumstances make it much easier for them, we've had some units, one unit in particular, well, actually, we've had 2 units in the past prior to COVID that took more than a year to sell. One was 17 months. And so when people are in a hurry, we can do this within 2 weeks when we have sufficient funds to buy the unit back. So it's a very comfortable, low stress issue for clients. Sometimes when their health has declined, this is a huge benefit to them if we can actually provide this service to the life lease residents. So that's end of that presentation. So I guess unless there's any particular questions on any of these slide items, I can stop sharing and you can ask questions. Is that okay?
Yep, that's good.
Thank you very much. So open for questions, please.
I do have one question, and that is, you mentioned that currently on your wait list, you have some people that are looking for just rent, and you have one person that's looking to purchase. Do you really want them to purchase a unit?
The answer is probably no, but at the end of the day, we have no control over that. We have to respect their wishes in terms of the agreement. And of course, if there are insufficient funds to purchase it, we can't provide that option anyway. I mean, certainly the issue, the issue that you're raising, Your Worship, is the fact that there is no way of actually getting vacant occupancy of the building, because we have that, the way life leases are structured is you have that 50-year for whatever, many multiple years that they can stay there, provided they can live independently. And of course, that's the only reason why people actually leave over the last, since 2006 when we opened the open life lease. So it's not the ideal situation, but as I mentioned, we have to respect the contractual obligations.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Borneman has a comment or.
I was just gonna add to that, Mr. Carmichael, that, if someone puts it on the open market and someone else is willing to pay more, it's their right to sell their unit to the highest bidder, right? And the board has a template, a scale, which we use to try to be consistent and fair to all and responsible to the municipalities at the same time.
Okay, well, that's good. Thank you. Any other questions at all? I'm not seeing any other questions, so I want to thank you and Mr. Carmichael and Ms. Wing for your presentation tonight and being here.
Thank you. You all right, Pam? Right. Thanks very much. Good evening.
All right,
Thanks.
take care.
Thanks very much. Good night.
Night. Stay safe.
You too.
Okay. Our next deputation then is, I understand Charlene Johnson wants to make a deputation. Hi. So, yeah, well, preferably, and then you've got to click the microphone on. Okay, so, yeah, there you go.
There we go. And so I addressed you as your worship and counselors, is that correct?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I'm Charlene Johnston, for those of you who don't know me. I am a longtime volunteer for the town of Parry Sound, starting when I moved back. I went to high school here, moved back in 2000, started a basketball club that is now the Stingers Basketball Club. It was taken over and grown. I also immediately joined Sale Parry Sound as a board member. And the Parry Sound Real Estate Board, I was a director there, as well as the Downtown Business Association. The list for volunteer goes on and on. I believe that if everybody volunteers for just one thing, the world would be a better place. So I continue to do that. And most recently, I was chatting with George Stivrins, who, as you know, is my business partner for the Harbor Walk Shops. And I said, George, what's happening with the kiosk? He said, oh, well, Lorraine's retiring. I said, it needs to be a coffee shop. He said, well, give me a proposal. So we did. And that's, that's how Northern Perk started. And then Harbor Walk Shops, we got chatting and George said, I'd love to see some shops down here. And I said, George, let's do it. So we collaborated and created Harbor Walk Shops. And I wish you could see the slideshow, although it was pretty rookie because I put it together myself. We can forward that on to you so you can see it. My team didn't have a chance to do it for me. But what it did is it showed you our summer down at the waterfront and how it how it cooperated with the town with regards to your strategic plan. So it showed all of the different areas that it assisted the town in achieving the things that you have on your strategic plan. So one of them being economic development, obviously, and the diversity of that with the different businesses, as well as job creation. The coffee shop had 7 baristas along with the contractors and legal counsel and all the other things that we had to create that. It assisted new business owners in having an opportunity to make a dream come true and have a business. And we saw some of them really thrive in that situation. So we learned a lot. It impacted not only the business owners, but we had many people come down and gather there. So they would come down, they would shop, they would have their coffee, they would sit, stay, have business meetings. It was turning into quite a busy little hub. And we also had, it wasn't just the families that came down, they came down with their 4-legged creatures. So there was a lot of movement there. We had, with regards to your cultural aspect of your strategic plan, we had artists who came and painted on stage, as well as yoga in the morning. And we had the First Nations come and drum on the stage for the cruise ships. So that was in line with your Truth and Reconciliation policy. So from what I understand, the town is looking to bring in some information, and we would love to cooperate and collaborate and see that down there. I think it's a huge missing piece, and we fully support having a shop there for that purpose. George Stiverins is my business partner in Harbor Walk Shops, and Gigi Harding is my business partner in the coffee shop. And Gigi comes from a family that owned Quick Copy, and then she brought in another franchise to Canada. So she's a very well-versed businesswoman, and she has also offered to mentor the businesses that have a shop so that they can start off with a business plan and understand the cost of goods sold and how long it takes to make a business successful and profitable. And that doesn't always happen in your first year. And just those really basic things that we found a lot of the businesses weren't prepared with. So that's a great opportunity. George, of course, you know, brings a wealth of knowledge and business savvy. So between the 3 of us, Gigi and George are numbers people, and I'm the dreamer that makes the dreams come true. So between Harbor Walk Shops and the coffee shop, we have a very significant capital investment in that. And because of that, to grow it, it would be great if we could get some security of tenure there so that we knew that our investment was going to have an opportunity to get to the stage where it's going to profit, because it definitely hasn't. It won't next year. The coffee shop, it'll probably be 4 years. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully things will grow. So I'm hoping that council can see their way to create some sort of security for us so that we know we can continue with our investment and continue to make the waterfront grow and to continue to help the town achieve their goals with regards to their strategic plan. And internet, because I know you're gonna ask me about internet. I ordered it in April. The cable got put in at the end of August and then promptly got dug up again when the Andersons put in their services. So hopefully the cable's working. And if it is, then there will be free Wi-Fi down at the waterfront. We also have, and this also goes along with your strategic plan, we have video surveillance, and it came in handy last year when there was a theft and the police could come and look at the surveillance and found the little culprits and everything was fine. So that's another piece. And then there are also some new things coming in the new year. We're getting a website and we're getting awnings on the huts to divert the water away from the doorways and to stop some of the sun from coming in so that it's a little more comfortable in the huts. And I believe that's it without my presentation. So I winged it. Are there any questions?
Anyone have any questions? Yes, Councilor McDonald.
Thank you, through the chair. In regards to the layout of the dock shops, there was some talk about improving ventilation to make them a little more comfortable for the vendors that were down there. What were the thoughts on that going forward?
If we put them back to back, that's what their concern was.
Correct.
So it would mean moving them into a different kind of alignment and moving the doors. It's not something that can't be done. It can be done. There are windows on the back that are shut. And so we were going to put those on levers so that they could have some cross ventilation. And it is, I think, has to be recognized that this is a market. It's not bricks and mortar. You can lock the tent, but it's not climate controlled. And there are some hot days in the summer and there are some cold days in the summer. And it's the town dock. It's a lovely place to go and stand outside if you need to. We're trying our best, but I think it has to be acknowledged too that it is a market and not a bricks and mortar climate controlled facility.
Yes, thank you. And I'm sure after 1 year, you've probably had a lot of feedback to digest. Now, I've also had some comments made, and I mean, this is an ongoing thing about the washroom facilities down there. Has there been any thoughts into keeping them open longer or on certain
I would
days?
love to address something that happened this summer, actually. Somebody came down, tried to get into the washroom and it was locked. And this is why it was locked. Because one of my female baristas was in cleaning the bathroom and a gentleman came in, pulled out his genitals and went to the bathroom in front of her. So I said, from now on, you go in, you lock the door, you clean it, the sign's up. But unfortunately, the public isn't always considerate. And that is not okay for a young girl to have to face something like that. So somebody must have tried to get in because those doors were not locked before 5 p.m. That's when we closed. They closed the coffee shop first and then they clean and close the bathrooms. So if it's locked during the day, it's because it's being cleaned and the baristas don't want to have to deal with the shenanigans that might go on. I hope that's understandable.
It was more in regards to staying open a little bit later, like when the car show's down there past a certain time after the coffee shops closed, sort of thing. The possibility of keeping the washroom facilities open later into the evening.
We stayed open until 7 for the car show.
Okay.
So they were open until 7, but the car show maybe left a little early. But we stayed, and we are looking at staying open longer during the summer months. But it would be difficult for us to keep them open if we're already closed.
Okay.
Yeah. And George, I know during the summer months when they stayed open later, we left them open and his staff came and closed them. But that was during the summer months, not during the shoulder seasons. Yeah,
Great, thank you.
you're welcome.
Councilor Keith.
Yes, I just had one question. So some of the business owners that use the dog shops last year, what percentage are interested in coming back? Because I know new
Right.
business usually takes a
Yes.
few years to get going.
Yes, 3 out of 5
Thank you.
have actually signed the application. Yeah.
Counselor Borneman?
I think this question is probably for Mr. Thompson. Charlene's addressed the idea of some longer term security we're not providing that this evening in this recommendation. Will something be brought back to address that, or how does that how does that take place?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that particular issue is not addressed tonight. It is a real issue. It has been discussed by myself and Charlene and George previously about how that can be accommodated. The overall operating agreement is up at the end of October in this year. So there is most likely going to be some changes. Staff's plan is to bring a report to closed council in the upcoming month, sometime in February, where we would put together a plan about how we want to move forward with that overall operating agreement. Harbor Walk Shops operates underneath that overall operating agreement. That would be the time when we'd be discussing how can we address issues of more security or the long-term establishment of the Harbor Walk Shops and things of that nature, in terms of making sure that investment that is put forward by individuals is properly protected, as well as allowed to flourish as well.
So that was my, I guess I'm asking that question, Mr. Thompson. I assume then that we'll have this discussion and make some kind of decisions before spring, when those investments would have to be made for the current season, the 2024 season. I'm not sure how that's all going to work, and that's kind of what I'm getting at, is this is pretty complicated.
Through your worship, well, we're starting to address the report that's later on in the meeting, so I'm not sure if council wants me to address this now or while Charlene's done her presentation, or whether you want to wait till that point in the meeting.
I just know that there's some time element here that has to be addressed.
If you want to go ahead and discuss that, that's probably fine, because if there's any questions, either one. So go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
So of course, there's a capital investment that's required by the owners and operators of the Harbor Walk Shops, and Charlene alluded to the issue of security. So that is an issue here. The security that's in the current agreement and the one that's proposed is not extensive. However, recognition of the capital investment is recognized by staff, and we would be wanting to address that as we move forward with any new operating agreement. That operating agreement could be in multiple forms, and staff have some ideas about ways that would move forward. We want to introduce that to council in closed meeting to get concurrence on how we would move forward with operating agreements in the future, and what it would look like, and how multi-pronged the approach would be. Right now, it's operated through a private organization. I would assume there would be opportunities or people who'd be interested from the private enterprise, as well as maybe public entities that would be interested in operating it. And we have to figure out how we're going to release an RFP that would be fair to all parties who would be involved. That would include the capital investment that Charlene has made in in both the coffee shop and in the Harbor Walk shops already, and dealing with what we're going to deal with tonight as well.
Any other questions? Councilor Blasky?
Thank you, your worship. I'm getting a little confused here, I guess. The contract for running the wharf comes up in the fall, and, or the contract ends in the end of October, you're saying? Is this, you're talking long-term with these Harbor Watch, are they going to affect the RFP for the RFQ for operation of the town dock and wharves and marina?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there's a few agreements that are in play here. There's the overall operational agreement that Massasauga Management Corporation holds and have held for 10+ years with regards to the operation of the town dock and Big Sound Marina. The last time we did that agreement, we had an added value clause put into it with the encouragement for something like kiosks or Harbor Walk shops to be introduced and expanded. So that was part of the last contract. The principal, Mr. Stivrins, came up with an idea with regards to Harbor Walk shops, found partner to engage in that, and we put that in place starting last year. Now this year, you have a report in front of you that is looking at an expansion of that. It's not much of an expansion as compared to the original proposal. The original proposal talked about 8, and there were only 5 put in place last year, and now we're talking about 10. The tricky part moving forward is going to be the capital investment that's been made into the Harbor Walk shops and the kiosk. When I speak of the kiosk, Charlene's referring to it as the coffee shop. Previous to that, it was Lorraine's. There's been capital investments put into that as well. We're going to have to navigate what's going to be appropriate when we release an RFP or investigate, who's going to take over the contract, the overall contract for Big Sound Marina and the town dock, on reflecting that capital investment that was put in place and the efforts that have gone into Harbor Walk shops. So we can craft an RFP that will recognize that. The tricky part is going to be what does that exactly look like, and how is it going to provide suitable security so that all parties involved are going to be comfortable.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess it's going to, you used the word tricky, and it will be tricky if you're looking at, say another entitled, looks at the operation of the wharf and the marina, and this, if it's agreed upon, is tacked on to it, that you now, how to word this, if you now take over this, say if there's another person looks at another company looks at it, yeah, you can, we're going to put it up for a contract, but we have an existing contract for multi-years on these buildings, so it is going to be tricky to offer, I guess, an RFP for an RFQ for that on that. I think tricky is a good word for it. Yeah.
Through you, Ms. Mayor, I use the term tricky, but I see parallels in this in any commercial enterprise. It could be as large scale as a large shopping mall. If someone purchases that, it comes with tenants already. And so we're looking at a similar situation. We have a contract that we're going to be releasing an RFP for. So we don't know what those proposals are look like. They could come back in a multitude of forms by a multitude, as I said, of suppliers. It could be private enterprise. It could be public enterprise. It's going to need to recognize that there are some existing tenants already involved. And they're going to, anyone putting in a proposal is going to have to explain how are they going to accommodate those existing tenants moving forward. So I think that's similar to many commercial, the people who purchase commercial buildings that already have existing tenants. So will it be tricky? Yeah, I think it will be tricky. Is it doable? I also think it's quite doable. We just have to put some careful thought into how we're going to release it and what we're going to specifically ask for.
The thing you just, this is, of course, we're not really selling we're not selling them all, we have town property that we're putting out to offer someone to manage for us. So this is included in that. I just want to be sure that that's what we're looking at, and it is going to be hard to write up a contract that addresses that, and that's all the time I need to take on. Thank you.
I think the important thing right now is we're asking questions. But I think there's going to be a little more wholesome discussion once we actually get to the bylaw. So, Councillor McCann.
Thank you. Two questions. So, thank you for your presentation this evening. The tenants for each shop, is their lease just for 1 year? Are they renewed on an annual basis?
It is renewed on an annual basis, and last year we learned that we needed to amend our contract because we didn't feel we had the power to deal with an entity that maybe wasn't following their lease. As much power as we need to be able to re-rent it if somebody doesn't open their doors. I think everybody understands what I'm talking about. So we've actually sent it to our lawyer to have that revamped, and it is a year-to-year lease. Yep.
Sort of like back in the heyday of malls, when you rented, you had to be open. Yeah.
That's
based on what the.
Thankfully, the town has provided that for us, right? You've given us the mandate that there are certain hours, which as a business owner and a long-term resident who's watched businesses come and go in the downtown, I think we all know the number one thing that you have to do when you're a business is have your door open. So I'm thankful that you put that into the bylaw so that it's recognized, and we've beefed up our contract so that that is very clearly stated and they understand it.
Definitely, yeah, sure. So basically, in response to Councillor Boleski, if these contracts or leases are only a year at a time, that might make it less complicated. Or, as you said, Mr. Thompson, we don't know what could be coming in the next 4 or 5 years, and any proposal could have any different number of moving parts and interesting options and opportunities. So I'm kind of looking forward to the future of the waterfront. So thank you.
Just so you're clear, the Harbor Walk Shops pays rent to Massasauga Management, and so does the coffee shop pays rent. So we're paying tenants for whoever takes that over. So it's like buying an apartment or a commercial building. There's a paying tenant, so they buy the revenue, or they get assigned the revenue rather when they win the RFP.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Mr. Thompson actually alluded to that. If you buy a mall, you buy the renters at the same time. Yes, thanks.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Councillor Ashford?
Just to be clear, with the 4-year thing you mentioned about the profitability of the coffee shop, so your intention would be that I can still get a London Fog 4 years from now?
A really good one.
Yeah, thank you.
You were in my presentation.
Are there any further questions? No? Okay, thank you. Yeah. All right. I believe it's reports time, so we'll start with Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll keep this short and sweet. I just attended one meeting, January 10th, Downtown Business Association monthly meeting. We're talking about approving the proposed budget for the coming year, as well as finding a new location for the Parry Sound Cruisers car show, and talks about information booth at the town dock, which will be coming up later. And currently that is all for my report.
Councillor Borneman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. On the 9th of January, I attended an airport commission meeting. We instituted staff pay raises in accordance with Seguin's cost of living guidelines. We're continuing to review and implement our strategic plan with respect to some governance issues, and of course, we started working on the 2024 budget. On the 10th, I attended a meeting of the Belvedere Heights Governance Committee. There are a number of issues being debated with respect to the roles and the authority of certain subcommittees. And on Monday afternoon, I attended a meeting with the Life Lease residents with respect to snow removal in the parking lot and how we can manage this most cost effectively. And that's, I'll leave the discussion about the Order of Parry Sound to you. And I would add that January 20th is the Parry Sound Hockey Club are hosting an all-day event at the BOCC in recognition of their 100th year anniversary. It's still a pretty good ticket to go down and watch kids have fun and enjoy themselves and learn the benefits of teamwork and so on. So I hope folks go down and support them in their efforts. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor McCann.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and fellow councillors, staff and public. I too will defer the conversation of the Order of Parry Sound to you, Mr. Mayor, but I would congratulate Glenda Clayton. I missed this one this year, but she is well deserving for all the work that she's done. On Wednesday morning, the 10th of January, I attended the Parry Sound Public Library Board meeting by Zoom. Stephen Heder has been elected the new vice chair. Our CEO made her report. Financial reports were received. Dates for board meetings throughout 2024 were established. 2024 board plan was initially presented, which includes policy reviews, strategic planning, and building assessment. So we have a busy year ahead of us. As always, you're invited to visit the library's website for programs and services and hours and such. It's an easy website to remember, parrysoundlibrary.com. I would like to take this opportunity publicly to express my condolences to the McGarvey family on the passing of your mom, Mayor McGarvey. Our prayers and thoughts are with your family. 89 when she passed away. And I guess this is the best time right now to say Happy New Year to everybody. And on behalf of my wife, I hope that we'd like to wish Mayor, Council, staff, and the people of Parry Sound a very happy, very healthy, prosperous New Year. But also hoping and praying for resolve in war-torn areas in the world, that people in other parts of the world may enjoy the kind of life and freedom that we have here in Canada. May we never take that for granted. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Belaski.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, the same as last time, during the holidays, I did not attend any meetings. We are starting again next week, so the next time I will have some, and that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ashford.
A short report today, one meeting of the Accessibility Committee, where we talked about some of the new projects that are happening in Parry Sound and the great work that the staff have done, including Mr. Kearns, especially who are working as leaders to make sure that all of our facilities and spaces in Parry Sound are accessible as redesigns happen and all those kind of things go on. And we were really blessed to have the input of all the different members of the Accessibility Committee who have a lived experience. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that the Accessibility Committee and the town as a whole is looking for that lived experience to be shared with us as much as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Keith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councilors, staff, and the public. I can only add that in attending the accessibility meeting, certainly the three parks that we are going to be looking at include Mission, William Street, Wabano Beach, and there should be a request for a proposal put out regarding the park playground, park equipment, and also the walkway towards the Francis Pegamo Gobble statue should be more leveled out so that people with accessibility issues will be able to get right up to that beautiful statue. I also attended the levee for the town on the 7th of January, and I'm sure that will be reported by our mayor. I attended the at the BOCC, the upcoming police service board. It was an information session where a representative from Solicitor General provided more information about the boards that will be created throughout Ontario and the requirements, regulations to help us better understand how that can better work in our area for West Parry Sound. In addition, I also, in the evening, the Salvation Army hosted a volunteer dinner for those volunteers who have helped them out throughout the year. And I was surprised but honored in receiving an appreciation certificate for my work in reference to the radiothon and ringing the bells or dancing about at Christmas time. So I did appreciate that also.
Thank you, Councillor Keith. Council staff and public, fortunately, it was quiet over the holidays, which was nice. But, and then the new year struck and everything moved along. So January 7th was the New Year's levy, as was mentioned. A well-attended event, and it's my opportunity to give those in attendance an update on what's gone on in 2023. And I look forward into 2024, and it was very much appreciated that your TV was on hand to video some of it, which was great to get into a larger audience. So as was mentioned, Glenda Clayton received the Order of Parry Sound. I will recognize that Ann Bossart is in the audience tonight, has also received an Order of Parry Sound. So Glenda affectionately sometimes is referred to as the Snake Lady in her efforts of saving endangered species, and she volunteers in a number of organizations throughout the community. And so to Glenda, thank you for all of your efforts. There's certainly the order is certainly well deserved of you. And I want to thank the nomination committee, which I have absolutely no idea who they are, for their work on this, and certainly our staff at the Bobby Orr Community Center for their efforts, and to our Rebecca Johnson for her work in putting everything together, because without that organization, the event would not be what it was. So I was really pleased with the turnout, and just the whole event was a nice vibe. So now, January 10th at the Bobby Orr Community Center, Councillor Keith just mentioned the new Police Services Board and the update on how they're going to operate. January 10th at 2 p.m. I attended the West Parry Sound Economic Development Collaborative meeting with the remaining members. And then January 11th at noon, I attended kickoff for the 30,000 Island Bonspiel. This is certainly a long-standing Bonspiel in Parry Sound, well attended. About half the teams are from the area, and the other half are from out of town. So I understand they had a pretty good time. And then at 6:30 on the 11th, I attended a DSAB meeting, and council should have received their administration report on that. Should have also received a report from Public Health that I put through too. They've started packaging it up like they did before, and I'm trying to get it out to members of council and to the other municipalities that in West Prairie Sound that I represent, so on that board. And that's my report. Okay. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keith and second by Councillor Boleski that council, the corporation of Town of Parry Sound confirm the Bobby Orr Community Center banner display policy adopted under resolution 2019-129 and attached to Schedule A. Discussion? All in favor? And that's carried, not opposed. Moved by Councillor Borneman, second by Councillor Keith. Whereas municipal public works departments from across the province of Ontario provide invaluable services to our communities, ensuring the health and safety of all residents. And whereas if it was not for our municipal public works employees from across the province of Ontario maintaining our public road systems, our communities would not be able to function as emergency personnel could not respond to calls, school buses could not get our children to school, residents would not be able to get to work, school, or appointments that may have more basic functions would not be able to happen. And whereas municipal public works departments are already feeling the impacts of a labor shortage, which will only be exacerbated over the next 3 to 5 years, which will cause levels of service municipalities are able to provide to ensure the health and safety of our residents to decrease. And whereas there is currently no provincial-wide course that properly trains potential municipal public works employees specifically relating to municipal heavy equipment. Therefore, be it resolved that the town of Parry Sound supports the work of the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors to develop a municipal equipment operator course to address this issue. And that the town of Parry Sound calls on the province of Ontario's Ministry of Labor, Training, Immigration, and Skilled Trades to fully fund the municipal equipment operator course in 2024 through the Skills Development Fund, and that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Minister of Labor, Training, Immigration, and Skilled Trades, David Piccini, Town of Parry Sound's Member of Provincial Parliament, Braden Smith, and the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors. Any discussion? All in favor then? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Keith and second by Councillor Ashford that council authorize an exception to site plan control bylaw 2022-7257 to hold less securities than specified for the Harbor Bay development on Great North Road as a trial procedure. And further, that staff be directed to develop an alternative procedure for the holding and release of securities for this development that may be more advantageous to encouraging development while still protecting the municipal interest during the development process. Councillor Borneman.
I'm not sure who, but would someone care to give the Coles Notes version of this so the public has some understanding of what we're up to?
Jeremy's on Zoom there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Your worship, rather, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So as council knows, the purpose of securities for site plan agreements are essentially to ensure that site works being constructed or developed that those securities can remediate safely or ensure that certain works are finished should for whatever reason a development be abandoned or not completed for some reason. And those securities are important as they ensure that the responsibility is put on the developer and not on the general taxpayer. Securities are probably our best tool to ensure that remediation happens and that sort of thing. So generally, the municipality takes 100% securities for offsite work, such as like water, sewer, that type of infrastructure, and on-site for on-site works, the municipality takes 50%. and the other thing to consider here is those securities are for works that occur at all along the entire stage of development. So everything from the initial, maybe the initial prep work to, installing water and sewer right to the, additional lifts of asphalt and vegetation and that kind of thing. So in this case, the developer has asked that we do sort of a rolling security where we wouldn't take all of the securities. We would take an amount where the municipality could ensure that we're not put in a situation where we're spending money to either finish the works that are required or remediate those works. We did a similar agreement with the Harbor View development on Emily Street. Unfortunately, that development hasn't started yet, so we actually haven't implemented it, but we had another developer come forward with the same request. And for the reasons noted in the staff report, staff are open to that, mainly because we've worked with this developer. They do have a good track record. And I would note as well that this development in particular, the Harbor View development, or Harbor Bay rather, there's a number of stages. The current site plan application is for phase 1 and 2, and we're expecting about 6 phases. So there will be additional leverage and additional things we can implement in addition to securities to ensure that we're not putting the municipality at risk. So sorry for the long-winded explanation. I hope that helps. Certainly able to answer any follow-up questions.
Thank you for that, Mr. Rand. That's good. Makes sense to me. Anyway, any other questions? Councillor Keith?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rand, and Happy New Year. What I'm wondering is how common has this practice been in other areas, other jurisdictions, municipalities?
Through you, your worship, to Councillor Keith, we've heard of a few municipalities that have tried this, Huntsville probably being the most similar nearby municipality. We don't have a whole lot of data in terms of its success. We did consult with municipal planning services who did indicate that it is somewhat more common down south in the city. But as we said, there's a couple things that give us a level of comfort here. One is the developer themselves and our relationship with them, and two is the complexity of this project. And given the securities, the procedures for securities are pretty stringent, and I think that given a project with as many steps as it has, it makes sense to divvy those securities up and take one larger security that could be rolled into the future the stages of the project, and that does take a lot of onus off the developer. In this particular case, I believe the securities are in around the $900,000 range, and to take a rolling security, you're looking at it could be, we don't know exactly, but it could be a third to half that amount.
Anything further? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Item 932, moved by Councillor Ashford, second by Councillor Boleski. Whereas in December 2022, the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, AGCO, amended the provincial framework for temporary patios, which comes into effect on January 1st, 2023, and requires that municipal approval be obtained for licenses prior to selling or serving liquor on a temporary patio for up to 8 months per calendar year. Now therefore be it resolved, the Council of the Town of Parry Sound supports the approval of a temporary patio at Trestle Brewery located at 9 Great North Road for a period of up to 8 months per year, expiring on January 1st, 2026, to the terms noted in Resolution 2020-067. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moved by Counselor Baleski and second by Counselor Ashford that the report on advocacy efforts for the Rural Northern Immigration Pilot, otherwise known as RNIP, program be received for information purposes. Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, you had a question? Go ahead.
I just again wanted to thank the staff, Town of Parry Sound, for being leaders in this regard and seeing such a positive feedback from different organizations that we've contacted. Thank you so much.
Yep. Good. Any further? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moved by Counselor Borneman, seconded by Counselor McCann. Okay. Whereas current provincial municipal fiscal arrangements are undermining Ontario's economic prosperity and quality of life, whereas nearly a third of municipal spending in Ontario is for services in areas of provincial responsibility and expenditures are outpacing provincial contributions by nearly $4 billion a year. Whereas municipal revenues such as property taxes do not grow with the economy or inflation, whereas unprecedented population and housing growth will require significant investments in municipal infrastructure. Whereas municipalities are being asked to take on complex health and social challenges like homelessness, supporting asylum seekers, and addressing the mental health and addiction crisis. Whereas inflation, rising interest rates, and provincial policy decisions are sharply constraining municipal fiscal capacity. Whereas property tax payers, including people on fixed incomes and small businesses, can't afford to subsidize income redistribution programs for those most in need. And whereas the province can and should invest more in prosperity of communities, whereas municipalities and the provincial government have a strong history of collaboration. Now therefore be it resolved, the province of Ontario commit to undertaking with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario a comprehensive social and economic prosperity review, promote the stability and sustainability of municipal finances across Ontario. Any discussion? All in favor of them? That's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councilor Keith, second by Councilor Orneman. That bylaw number 2024-7387 being a bylaw to authorize temporary borrowing to meet the current expenditures of the Town of Parry Sound until taxes are collected and other revenues are received, be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Councilor Borneman, seconded by Councilor Keith, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? All in favor of them? That's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councilor Ashford and seconded by Councilor Baleski, that bylaw number 2024-7388 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with the Georgian Nordic Outdoor Activity Center for use of William Street Park as a paddling training center be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? Carried. Moved by Councilor Ashford and seconded by Councilor Baleski that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? Councilor Keith.
Yes, just a quick question, or actually two. Ms. McNamara, I'm wondering, was there a link on the town website before regarding the Georgian Nordic Activity Center? And how anybody could partake if they were interested?
Through your worship, thanks, Councillor Keith. Yes, there is a link currently on the town's website under leisure services and programs that would direct anybody to the Georgian Nordic Activity Center webpage. And of course, there's tons of information there on how one could be involved in the paddling program down at William Street Park. Thank you.
So my follow-up question is, given it was there in the past, did you hear any reports back from them, positive, indicating what percentage of people used that link so that it was helpful to them, but also it's indirect means of promoting our town?
That's a great question, Councillor Keith, and one that I didn't consider, nor did I pose to George and Nordic. I will certainly follow up with my contact to see if that's some kind of stat that they do track, and will ensure that is in my next report for council consideration.
Further questions? All in favor then? And that's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Blaski and seconded by Councillor Ashford. That bylaw number 2024-7389 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an amending agreement with Product Care Association of Canada for the collection of lighting products as part of municipal hazardous or special waste MHSW program be considered as read at first time. All in favor? And that's carried. All in favor of having the second and third readings? Good. Oh. And the extra signature. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Blaski and seconded by Councillor Ashford that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? Councillor Keith.
Yes, Mr. Cairns, could you advise me, under Appendix A there, I see the contact person's name is no longer with the town. Will that be either amended tonight or in the future so that we have a current contact name there?
Through your worship, yes. I'm not sure, maybe Ms. Johnson, if the appropriate amendment, it refers to a former employee that was the contact previously under previous iterations of this agreement. It's not necessarily critical to the content of the agreement, so perhaps I can speak to Product Care and just have them make sure that the appropriate contact person is mentioned in the future.
It's kind of more or less the clerk says a friendly amendment, just put the new person's name in. Yeah, we can correct it. Any further questions? All in favor then? And that's carried. Moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Ashford, the bylaw number 2023-7384 being a bylaw to amend the agreement with Massasauga Management Company Limited for the use of the town dock for harbor walk shops be considered as read the first time, and that was carried. And then all members were asked about second and third reading, which was carried. And then we come to moved by Councillor Keith and second by Councillor Ashford that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed because it was postponed to this meeting. Councillor McCain.
You're asking for discussion?
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Thompson, then can you explain for the public then exactly what this is about?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this report was received by council in December with regards to increasing the number of shops that were able to be deployed down at the harbor, known as the harbor walk shops. So what is proposed is an increase to 10 shops from the current 5 that are there. And that's really what the report is all about.
Thank you.
Now, it was asked to be postponed to hear from the public if there were any concerns from the public. Was there anything brought forward?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there was a number of responses received from the
Okay.
public. I think there might be 7 or 8. A number of them were extremely complimentary of the initiative and were supportive of an expansion of the services. 2 of them were constructive in the nature of the response. One was from the Harbor Walk shop users, the people who actually operate out of the shops, concerned about the orientation. The other one was mainly with regards to some improvements they felt, I think, overall at the waterfront, specifically around garbage and things of that nature. So that was 2 more of the responses that were received. The last response came from the Downtown Business Association. When we brought this forward initially, we were doing this in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Business Association, and we were all the town moving this forward together. We were a little bit surprised when the Downtown Business Association decided to not support the initiative, because that had not been the previous response from them. That was received last Friday. Since that time this week, I have followed up with the Chamber of Commerce General Manager, and they are still very much in support of this initiative. And I also had further discussions with Charlene, who's in the crowd and gave a previous deputation to you tonight, who felt that they could also contribute through the coffee shop to this initiative and maybe fill in some of the areas that the Downtown Business Association was planning on doing, such as opening and closing the shop that would be associated with public information, and also encouraging businesses to provide information for the one shop that was going to be utilized for that purpose. So overall, we believe there's still merit in the initiative of the town having one of these shops to be utilized for information with regards to local businesses throughout town, as well as throughout the entire area. There are some opportunities that are being brought forward. Charlene tonight talked about small businesses just starting out. And when I was discussing the Downtown Business Association decision with April, she did mention that these shops, one of the benefits of them is actually almost as an incubator for small businesses. And Charlene brought it up tonight too. And I hadn't previously thought of that as being one of the benefits of them. But the more they talked both about it, I thought that it was something that allows for a small new business person to start developing their brand. And maybe one of these days they might be able to move into a bricks and mortar shop in the downtown or somewhere else within town as they progress their business. So there's a lot of added benefits that we're identifying. We received extensive positive feedback throughout the entire summer with the shops down there last summer. And I think everyone just wants to continue with that enthusiasm that's going and grow this opportunity.
I will say, I did receive some comments. 2 of them were very colorful, and I won't say anything about them. But more it had to do with parking. And because these are going to take up parking spots. And we're already at a premium down there for parking. And that was the concern that some of the people wanted me to relay, was the fact that parking is at a premium. And we're losing some. So, yes.
So if I may, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to speak to that particularly, because that does tie into the orientation of the shops, the way we proposed them. Last year, as you can recall, there was some consternation about loss of parking spots. And the way we oriented the parking spots was we set up 3 new accessible spots And then there were some parallel spots that were set up behind the shops. So what we're proposing would actually remove the parallel spots that would be behind where the current shops were last summer. Staff have discussed between bylaw and public works and myself opportunities that we could increase parking down there. One of those is to look at McIsaac Way and how there could be some parallel parking put in McIsaac Way that's not previously been able to be utilized. Another is across from the Stocky Center up against the old OPP station. There is parking in there currently, which is sort of haphazard, and it's mainly utilized as parallel parking. We believe there's an opportunity to formalize that parking in there and have it as angle parking. And that will greatly increase the number of parking spots down there. So it doesn't directly tie to the shops. But my point being, with the orientation that the current shop owners were concerned about, we still believe the 5-on-5 stacked is the proper approach, because we're going to lose the least amount of parking spaces that way. And we've established 3 accessible parking spaces that are really well oriented right now with the way the shops are. If we were to string the shops out all the way along the concrete pier, we would lose those. And I don't think those would work very well in a parallel parking orientation. So there was some method behind our decision that we were moving forward with the 5-on-5 stacked orientation, and it mainly dealt with the parking issues down there.
Thank you. Councillor Borneman.
This is kind of a chicken and the egg question, Mr. Thompson. Which comes first, the investment for the 5 new shops or the agreement going forward beyond this year to protect the folks who are making the investment, or and potentially a different management group who may have a different vision of sorts? Who's to say?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe that there can be a multitude of answers to that question. What I'm suggesting is that we can move forward with the implementation of the additional shops. In talking to Charlene and George, they would only be purchasing shops if they had people to fill the shops. So it's not an instant purchase of the capital for the 5. They want to move that forward as they can get people to fill those. We are going to be able to manage in any future agreements how these pieces interact. As we alluded to earlier in the meeting, will it be tricky? Yes, it will. But I think this is a good problem to have. I talked to a lot of people down there last summer about how busy it was, parking issues, all those sorts of things. We came to the conclusion, these are good problems to have. And I believe that what we're discussing right now is a good problem to have. Will it be difficult to find the solution? Yes. But I think that it's going to boost the vitality of the area, and we will overcome those problems that you're mentioning as we develop what this bigger picture is going to look like. We're trying to achieve a number of components of council's strategic plan. It speaks to more tourist information. It speaks to more partnerships. It speaks to many of these issues that this is a prime example of how we can achieve those things that are in the strategic plan. Charlene spoke earlier about the partnerships with the First Nations and having them down on the bandstand for interpretive information when the cruise ships are in. All of these initiatives, although difficult to manage, are important, I think, in what the future vision of the waterfront area looks like.
Councillor Ashford. Oh, Councillor Belaski and then Councillor Ashford.
Thank you, Your Worship. I personally like these. I think they're an asset to the waterfront. I've been at a few meetings. One was West Parry Sound Municipal Association. There was a lady there from Huntsville that had been over and commented on how nice the waterfront was and how busy it was, and those huts are just great. She said, I'd like to rent one myself. In reading here, we've in reading, in reading, these, everybody's, we're getting a lot of positive letters. That being said, I have a letter that I got from a downtown business, quite a lengthy letter, who is adamantly against it and mentioned a few things, and parking is one of them. And from that, I would suggest that you were saying the parking alongside the OPP, that could possibly be addressed as for staff from these huts. That would be their parking area, because that was one of the concerns that was addressed was the more huts you get, the more parking people are going to, the staff are going to be there. So maybe they need to be over the Stocky Center or over by the OPP, like there. I'm kind of all for this proposal, but that is one of the questions I want to ask. And the Downtown Business Association, we have a letter here that are against it. And I'd like to see that addressed somehow, because the downtown businesses is what this whole thing kind of is about. Our downtown is slowly but surely going down. We need to build it up. And if the people that are managing the downtown are against this sort of thing, then I think we need to address that as well. To find out what we need to do to make them happy, because they're our taxpayers. There are downtown businesses. They're very, very important to the downtown, very, very important, Parry Sound. And I believe that that's one of the things that need to be addressed on this issue before we get carried away with that sort of thing. That's my comments. I'd like to see that addressed.
Councillor Ashford.
I would like to, I think, suggest too with the parking that I do know that the marina section over by the Stocky Center is often quite empty. So I think some of the fears of the parking for the businesses can be alleviated just through discussions with Mr. Stivrins. But I also kind of believe in the businesses of the town of Parry Sound that there's only a couple circumstances where I see business owners and employees parking in the spots that patrons want. That businesses in our town are smart, successful ones anyways, are smart, and they do not park where people are. They park in places, they park further away, they walk in, they do things to make sure that their business is successful. So I really think that although we can provide those solutions too, we probably don't need to even mandate it. We don't need to get involved because the businesses do that on their own to make sure that they're successful. And I also wanted to recount one thing that the shops brought to Parry Sound, not just the shops, one of the part as a component of our business community is our community was described as a renaissance to me by a couple different people. That Parry Sound is kind of in a renaissance period where people who've been coming to the Muskokas and Seguin for years have cottages, different places. They have been traveling to Bracebridge, they've been going to Gravenhurst, they've been going to Huntsville, and the thought of Parry Sound was industrial and unappealing to them. And multiple people in the last summer mentioned that they were stuck coming to Parry Sound to go to grab some groceries because they didn't want to be stuck with the busyness, and got here and realized that we've gone through a renaissance. And I think that the dock shops have been a good part of that. And the success of our businesses is in part related to the success of those dock shops.
Councillor Keith.
I'm going to say, as you grow, that means you change. And in changing, I think these dock shops are something that is part of Parry Sound growing. It shows vitality. It shows that we have a strategic plan and we're moving forward on it. Does that mean there's going to be some pain? Does that mean there's going to be some unhappiness? But is there also going to be some happiness? If we want our town to grow, if we want other people to come into our community, whether it be as tourists or somebody that comes in and sees the vitality that here and says, hey, I think I want to move up to this area. It isn't the community of 40 years ago. this is what you do. You're going to probably, for some people, have a little bit of pain, but we also hear all the positives. And I think that if you look at the big picture, and even when we had matters put over to this date to have responses back, just statistically, we had much more positive comments than we had of negative comments. So I think this is the time for us to give it a try. And as we know that at the end of October, another contract is sooner or later is going to happen. So in the meantime, we have an opportunity to assess the situation, see where we go from there. But we need to move forward on this, and I think this is an opportunity to do it. Let's not stifle creativity. Thank you.
Councilor McDonald.
Yes, thank you. And I mean, I echo everyone's sentiment here in regards to the growth that I've seen at the town docks, the work that the Downtown Business Association has done beautifying the downtown core, all the way down Bay Street to the town dock. I've lived here all my life. I can't remember a summer that I've seen it so bustling down at the wharf, and it's a great thing to see. And I'm all for continued economic growth and development. I think that this is a good stepping stone for a lot of small businesses, home-based businesses, to step out into a bigger market and test the waters. Perhaps they'll, from that point, they may open up a brick and mortar shop downtown or somewhere in town or in the area. So yes, I mean, I'm 100% in for this. I support it 100% from a business standpoint, and I look forward to seeing what happens this coming season.
Anything else? All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Keith and second by Councillor Ashford, that bylaw number 2024-7390 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an amending agreement with Automotive Materials Stewardship Incorporated to allow for collection of various automotive materials as part of the Municipal Hazardous or Special Waste MHSW program be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? That's carried. Moved by Councillor Keith, second by Councillor Ashford, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Moved by Councillor Borneman, second by Councillor McCann, that bylaw number 2024-7391 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? You don't want to go home? That's carried. Moved by Councillor McCann, second by Councillor Borneman, that bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. All in favor? That's carried. Prior to adjourning, I'd like to offer the following information to the public regarding the next council meeting. The next meeting of council for the town of Parry Sound is scheduled for Tuesday, February 6th at 7 p.m. The meeting will be held at the town of Parry Sound Council Chambers at 52 Stephen Street, entrance via Gibson Street. It'll be live streamed and recorded. All regular council meetings are held at 7 p.m. on the first and third Tuesday of each month, except January and August, where only one regular meeting is scheduled. The council meeting schedule, notices of special council meetings, complete agendas and minutes, and instructions on accessing live streamed and recorded council meetings are all posted on the town's website. Go to www.parrysound.ca and use the search bar. Your TV airs council meetings on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. following a regular council meeting. And for Cogeco listings, contact www.yourtv.tv. All the best in 2024 to everyone. Thank you and have a good night. I can give you a ride home, George.